Welcome to Office Hours. This is where we answer your tech questions 7 days a week. More on how to interact with the show later, but for right now, let's get right to your questions. Alexander, what do we have to lead us off today?
First one this morning is from TJ Asher in Minneapolis, Minnesota. My power went out last week, and 2 of my 5 APC UPSs model backups 1500 only lasted about 4 minutes. They are only 2 years old. Is there a way to test my battery condition or refresh them, or do I just need to replace the batteries?
Oh, that's never good when a backup doesn't function as promised. Courtney Gooden, help him out.
Well, I have a lot of experience with this because my power went out at about 3:30 this morning and stayed out till about 6:15 this morning. So my UPS, I don't know if it's an APC, but it's similar to this one. I'm still getting no range. This one, if this is the one you have, it has a little battery meter on the front there that shows the state of the battery. And mine actually is a newer one that has the ability to tell you how many minutes it has left at the current drain on the batteries when it's activated, and it'll tell you the voltage, the frequency, and everything else. And it'll tell you approximately how long it should last. If it's showing 2 minutes right after it switches in, then your batteries are probably need a replacement. I think they may have lead acid 12-volt batteries in them, and steel lead acids, and you can usually get them online or at Amazon. You used to be able to get them at Fry's, but now you have to get them from Amazon. So it might be time to replace those if they are indeed replaceable and not lithium-ion.
And Alexander.
I'm a little concerned that 5 of the same model have the same problem. That's a little weird. 2 years isn't that old for a battery. I have the same model that you do. I believe it's the same exact one, TJ. I've had mine for about 10 months so far, but I don't have a full load on it. I would say maybe I have about 70% load on that thing, and I think I can get 40 minutes or so out of that thing at least. So I would probably talk to APC about that. That's a little weird, but I would also check the load that you have on there. I would not probably want to put it to the absolute limits of what it can actually do. And oftentimes, because I've done that by accident, and it will complain that you have too much going into that thing.
Well, hopefully, TJ, that helps. I imagine now everybody is going to go do some checking on their UPCs, and that's probably a good thing. Next question.
Paul Wallace is asking, how do you keep the Sony ZV series of cameras cool? Heat sinks, cooling fan, or...
Alexander, do you have a strategy for this?
That's a tough one. I'm having a hard time recommending these cameras because of the problems a lot of people have reported. I know people here have reported it. Other people have reported it. In fact, actually, the new second generation ZVE 10 Mark II, Gerald Undone did a great breakdown of that camera. And for the internal recording, he was able to get it to overheat, even in a controlled, air-conditioned studio. I think he said his studio was about 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and about an hour just overheated. Now, maybe it won't overheat as easily with a dummy battery as long as you're not internally recording, but your mileage may vary. I know there are companies on Amazon, you can find third-party cooling fans you can attach to this stuff. That does not inspire confidence to me. I would much rather just save my money a little bit more and just get an FX30.
Alex Lindsay.
I have the EVZ10, not the first version, and heat is a problem. And the bottom line is, if you're a creator and you're out shooting video with it, it's fine. If you're going to play it, if you're going to use it for 15 or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, you're going to do these little takes, it's fine. Doing it for a live stream or using it for something longer, I think is really what has become problematic. If you want a really long interview, if you want a lot of those things, I think that it's just not the right tool for you. My wife uses it. It works most of the time, but not all the time. We don't run it in 4K. We run it, we're outputting an HDMI signal. I definitely don't use the USB output, the USB-C output. That's going to put more pressure on it. We use the replacement battery, leave the window open so that it has more air to move. And so those are the kind of things that we do. If the room gets warm over about 75 degrees, it will eventually turn off. So you just need to know that that's the case. I didn't notice it when I was using it because I keep my room at the low 60s. So I because of that, I wasn't noticing it. But if you're willing to keep your environment at 64 degrees, which is what my room tends to stay at, then it works great. But if you allow it to go to normal temperature, 70, 75 degrees, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, I was looking at the AJA Scion cameras when they were at NAB. I think I was covering NAB that year, so I went to the booth and I was talking to them. And I noticed that the block right up in the front where the lens attached to the camera actually had almost like a flow-through, pass-through thing. And I was thinking, why is that? So I asked them, and they said, well, it's the heat management. We wanted to have lots of air in there. And I thought, boy, I take that back to Arizona. Am I going to have to dust the sensor a lot and things like that? I think these sensors generate a lot of heat when they're running at optimum power levels and things like that. So it's something you have to watch for. Let's go to the next question.
Francis Fry in Cambridge, Massachusetts. What do you recommend for a two-person podcast table, round or rectangle? Specific brands appreciated.
Alexander, you raised your hand first. Go for
I
it.
don't have a specific brand in mind, but I've come to like round tables because they're less awkward, they take up less space, and the shooting capabilities of where you can put cameras is pretty good. And I know Alex Lindsay has come to like round tables over the years, and he's used his telestrator many times to demonstrate how he shoots that kind of stuff. Also, I don't like sharp corners. That's another reason to not have a rectangular table.
Courtney?
Yeah, I agree. Also, round tables look better on camera if you're going to be wide enough to see them. And then if you need to arrange somebody at less than 90 degrees opposite each other, you could put them at a 45 degree and they could each have, nobody's going to be sitting on a sharp corner of the table that way.
Alex?
I've grown to like almost round. Almost round. So
Flat-edged round.
Yeah, it's not quite round. It's not quite round. It's not quite rectangular. So I just used this for an actual podcast recording, and I was really happy with it. So this is a almost round. So it is curved here, but it cuts off this front end, so it doesn't have so much. If it was round, this would be a much bigger table. So it's a triangular table. It is bar height. You could probably cut it if you wanted to. And it is, these chairs, relatively nice. They're comfortable. We did a 2-hour podcast. Everyone seemed to be pretty comfortable with them. But you could find other chairs if you wanted to. But it is it's very nice. It's relatively easy to put together. This is where this is the whole set. So I think you can buy things separately too. Here's the table here for only $700 and some dollars. It's a real table. Like this is not like a but the. Kyle said it's a spirograph. It's a spirograph shape, almost round. And anyway, so you could get it for your friends and everything else with all these tables. But there's a couple different ways this set is configured. Anyway, there's a couple things there. One is that I'd like to probably build one that's a little bit more portable. This is really designed for home, and I need one that I can move around. The other thing that I'm looking at doing is building something inspired by this table. But what I'm going to do is probably raise this area here on the inside. I'm going to raise it up about an inch. So it's just going to look like a little lip. And the key is the center part is not going to touch the side part. So there's not going to be any touching of that. And then I'm going to drill 4 holes in here for my mic, for my low profile mic arms. And so that way there's no way to tap this and hear it in the mic. So the idea is that this has got a slightly separated, it'll look very, very subtle. In fact, it doesn't even have to be raised up. It has to have what looks like a little detail, like a 1/2-inch groove that would go around this on the inside. That just keeps it from, and it's basically building a shock mount for all the mics all at one time. That way, the reason that I want to do it that way is because I find that the shock mics are really garish. Like when you look at the shock mic. Also, I have to admit that while after resisting it for a long period of time, I just did a show with SM7Bs, and wow, they're really nice. I understand why I haven't used SM7Bs for almost anything for a long time. And, I'm like, oh, they're big and blah, blah, blah. Number one, they weren't as big as I thought they would be. And number two, they just really sound nice and there's almost no popping. And, it's just a really comfortable mic for podcasts. So I understand why people are using it. But assembling an SM7B into a shock mount would be very difficult. So as a result, this one, by the way, again, is heavy duty. This takes two people to move around. So this is not something you'd buy at IKEA. It's not something that you would get, and now I'm going to probably try to build one that's probably a little lighter weight, but durable. And again, has this little, possibly even a rubber gasket. I'm trying to think through it, but the triangular shape, I had never thought of it until I saw it. I was walking through I needed to find a table for an event. I was walking through a furniture store where I needed to do it. I decided I'm going to fly down and find a table. And I found that table, and it worked out really well. It was a little too heavy to keep because I couldn't take it somewhere, but that shape just works exceptionally well for 2 or 4 people.
That groove for decoupling is a really interesting idea. I like that.
Yeah.
Courtney.
Yeah. So
Courtney?
if you're going to IKEA to look for that, that's called a rouleau triangle, invented by Franz Rouleau in the 19th century, German engineer who pioneered the study of machines.
Now we got smarter so fast.
I know.
Expect that, a rouleau.
A rouleau triangle. There's a name for it. It's also like the shape of the piston in a Wankel engine.
It's going to take me so long to learn how to spell that, though. Can you put that up again, like rouleau? Like that's a long. I got to
REULEAUX.
I don't even know. I couldn't even spell
AUX.
Definitely French.
I guess I'm guessing of the pronunciation. But I assume
exactly.
That's how it's pronounced.
So I think the Rouleau triangle, and I didn't make up the center. I was at a podcast studio in Dallas, of all places, outside of Dallas, in Frisco, and they had a podcast space in this really nice football arena, and they had done exactly what I just said, and I was just like, oh, why didn't I think of that? So building that table would make sense.
The one comment I will make, since I was talking to somebody just 2 weekends ago about they wanted to put together a little podcast studio thing, is that they only had about, I think, a 14 by 14 foot room to do it in. And the only downside to something like that is that it takes up a lot of space. So if you've got wide open studio accessibility, I think that would be ideal. That looks really interesting. In a standard office space, though, you're going to eat up a lot of room with that space, because it just is the struggle we were having is distance from the wall to where the podcasters would sit, and then from that position to where you could put a camera or director or anybody else, you ended up with just very narrow walk spaces in a very crowded room. So we ended up going with rectangles because of that. Alex, you wanted to get back in on the conversation? Yeah.
And to go back to what Alex had talked about, if I know that I have 3, 5, 7, anything like that 4, I use the rouleau layout. 2, I would probably use something that looks like a rouleau there. At 3 or 5, I would go to a circle. Exactly what, and I've talked about this in the past. I think this is what Alex was referring to. Is that I really like, if you've got, let's say, 5 people. So you've got these 5 people that are around here. What I really like to do, especially, and this actually takes less people, more cameras, but less people, is what I really like to do is shoot these gaps. So I shoot all the gaps. If you can, it works. You can kind of do it if you have an even number, but it's really easier to do it this way. And so the bottom line is that, oops, I didn't do that very well. The bottom line is you're shooting between all the gaps to every person instead of trying to shoot around them. You're shooting through all those gaps, and what you get is this feeling. And what we did there for most of these, this is for the Final Cut user group, which Bill was at a couple of times, and Chris Fenwick. For the Final Cut user group, we would have a big China ball, or as we got more refined, we got an Air Star, which is a 6 foot diameter China ball that is giant. And we would light everybody just with that, with a couple hair lights. We had a couple hair lights that were out on the outer edges. But by doing that, you just felt like you were sitting at the table. But you had a great shot of everybody. You got a full-on front shot of each person looking at each other. If you go back and look at the old PixelCore YouTube channel, and you look for Final Cut Pro virtual user group or whatever that we did years ago, you'll see this approach. And I just really felt like it was a It was a really great viewing experience that we used there. We built a table for it so that we all had telestrators, so we could all telestrate together, which would be a lot easier with the current version of telestration than the one we used then. So I think that I thought that was a really, really great, really great way to capture a podcast. It just and it wasn't, again, not inspired by me. We did it for Virgin Disruptor. It's the way like Richard Branson likes to do it. And so we learned from him. And I thought it was a crazy idea when someone told me, well, when Virgin wanted to do it, we thought it was nuts. And we were wrong. Like it's the best, in my opinion, in the round is the best solution for a lot of these discussions.
Having sat at that table, I'll tell you, it really is psychologically. You find yourself just looking at your friends and talking to your friends. So it takes away all the trappings of where's my camera, what's there. You don't pay attention to any of that. So you can just talk, which I think is genius in itself.
I really felt like not only was it a better viewing experience, but it was a better guest experience. Like we just really, like we were sitting at that table and we just felt very much like we were just talking to each other, and you just stopped thinking about I just never thought about the cameras at all, because what we do is we brought the cameras. We had a pretty big room, but the cameras disappeared into the dark. So it was a 30 by 30 room, and 12 feet high or whatever. So it was all black around it. So it just everybody kind of disappeared. All the cameras disappeared, and you're just talking to each other, and the time just went right by.
Yeah, that's very true. Let's move on to our next question.
Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. Seems like I'm having heating problems with two PTZ Lumens cams where they will become hot and stop sending signal out over NDI. They are power over Ethernet and sitting on flat surfaces. Could their positions be causing the overheating?
Cordy Gooden, can you help?
Possibly. Another thing to check is the PoE is delivering the correct voltage that those cameras are going to be looking at. Internally, they have voltage regulators in them. And if you're sending too low a voltage, it's going to try and use that voltage and may have to buck convert it up, which means it'll consume more current at the camera, and it's going to get hotter. So make sure that it's getting enough voltage over that PoE, that you have your power supply from your PoE Ethernet at the correct voltage for what the cameras want to see, and then just measure the voltage at the camera and see how much it's pulling. That may be part of the problem. Otherwise, you may have to put them on a metal surface or something so that it can wick away some of that heat.
Next question.
This one's from the QR code. Marielle Jusha on Wablo is asking, Alex, the LP reunion show the other week was a great way to debut the new band tour. It was amazing. How did the giant softbox over the stage work? How did they choose the cameras to use and which one to show on the stream?
Alex?
So I didn't see all of it. I saw bits and pieces of it. This is the Linkin Park is the LP, I believe. I'm going to guess that what you're talking about is Linkin Park with their new female singer, who is great, by the way. And so they did this concert and they streamed it. The challenge with big lights over the stage, in addition to logistical challenges, turns out I had a discussion with someone who works on this. Turns out to be the logistics of it, of how you pack it back into the truck. When we got into big light sources, there was this long discussion of, that you have a truck and you have to pack it all back in, and they'll talk, I didn't think about that, but that is a big part of these touring packages, is not how you do it once, it's how you do it every city, and this is what they work on in places like Rocklet. Is not only how does the stage work and rehearsal, but also what's the logistics of actually getting it from one place to another. So it was really, really interesting puzzle there. As far as choosing the cameras, we're going to we're doing some concerts soon. We're working on, we've got a space that wants to work with us. And we do think that both Nate Hill and Marcia Kerrigan, and Marcia, I think some of you have heard do concerts before. We're going to get them to call shows and let folks on office hours listen to them call the shows. It's a master's course in directing between either one of them. But the main thing is that a lot of times right before the show, I've worked with Marcia quite a few times. Right before the show, you'll hear her tell her you'll hear her call out. The more they rehearse, the better that she can know what the cameras can do and where they are. So getting into rehearsals is good. A lot of times because they're on tour, when they're on tour, it really works because the person who's cutting the show, and we'll see if we can get Marcia on for a second hour just to talk about it. But she's cut for, I don't know, the Eagles and Paul McCartney and Metallica, and as they go, you get a sense of what they're going to do for every song. So you get a sense of where to go for those things. And when they're rehearsing, and I can tell you from personal experience that Linkin Park rehearses a lot. So they probably rehearsed this intensely for weeks or months before they went live. So they probably had a lot of time to see what they were going to do on stage and how they were going to react and where to put cameras. And so I think that's probably gave them a lot of time to choose. A lot of times what they do is obviously different people on stage have different missions. So you're going to cover this, you're going to cover this, you're the handheld, I'm going to have you focus on these things. So before the show, you'll hear a lot of notes being given to these operators. Most of these operators have worked on thousands of shows. So you just need to tell them where to go, and they're going to go find the things that they need to find. Sometimes they don't. In some of the shows that we had, people were learning quickly. So, and at that point, the TD slows down a little bit and tells them, okay, I'm going to have you come from this, I'm going to have you start on the guitar and move up the body, or start on the guitar and move up the neck of the guitar, those kinds of things. And they might even have them, while they're cutting the show, have them rehearse it a couple times during that. But a lot of times, most of this is done when you have rehearsals. Most of it's done rehearsals. If you do it over and over again, the TD gets to know what's going to happen. It might be a new film crew, it might be a new camera crew, but the TD knows where they want to go because they're going to do 50 of these, and by the third or fourth one, they're oftentimes they're in a groove.
Nice. Let's go to the next question.
This one's for me. What's a good AI service that can create songs based on a prompt? My dad wants to put something funny together for a friend of his and wants a song that sounds like Shaft by Isaac Hayes, but it has to be about a guy named Jeff that plays golf.
Okay, I'm looking forward to this. Alex.
Sorry. This is the problem with AI. People keep on thinking that AI is going to take everybody's jobs because we're going to make content for Hollywood, or it's going to replace actors in big films. But the reality is that this is what everyone should be afraid of, is that people can just make tons of content for each other and they don't actually spend any time watching anything else. So I think that's the problem that you have with AI. Suno is the best known one. So I think Suno.ai is the one that is the best known right now. It does a pretty good job. You have to be careful of asking for, it doesn't like you asking for a specific person. So if you say, I want it to sound like Isaac Hayes, it'll be like, whoa. I can't do that. But if you describe as Isaac Hayes' voice, you might get something that's maybe not the same, but similar. So those are the kind of things that you want to think about.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, I concur. It's Suno. I think Suno.com is the place to go, and they have tons of covers and samples there you can listen to, and it does the most comprehensive and the best arrangement. Oh, look, there's a Shaft up one. That category. So you can look through the showcase and look and see if anything has that kind of Isaac Hayes rhythm and beat to it. Duplicating Shaft. Jeff, he's a mean with a golf. Yeah. You might have to write the lyrics. Watch your mouth. Talking about Jeff. You may have to write your own lyrics for it. And you can do that in Sumo. You can say, use these lyrics and write a song like this. And it comes out sounding quite good. Or it can write the lyrics for you, too.
Alex.
Mickey said that he's used tracks for jokes and used one, and one's used in actual production, such as walk-ins and BGM. So that's another a background music. So you could definitely play with it. I've been trying to get it. I've been working with Suno a little bit, trying to get it. One of my clients said the word, or not clients, but someone who we might work with somewhere in the future. They said, we want to keep it scrappy. And I just so want to do a song that's to Pharrell's Happy, but go, because we're scrappy, and then talk about leaving all the Ethernet out and not using our webcams, and, because we're scrappy. And so anyway, we'll see. We'll see if I ever get around to it. But Suno's not gotten it totally down yet, but we're getting there.
And if you want the backing track, remember karaoke is out there, and there will certainly be an Isaac Hayes backing track that's almost identical that somebody has put together for that. If you can muster up the courage to do the vocal part yourself, it's not an easy task. Next question.
John Snyder in Reno, Nevada is asking, OH Space, did anyone get great photos of Comet, Suchin, Shan, Atlas? Best tips for taking Comet photos?
Alex, you want to dive in on that?
It only comes around every 70,000 years, and I missed it. I didn't see it. So it was really cloudy here. So we didn't really have an opportunity to look up. So finding clear space is one thing. For a comet, you do want to think about tracking. So having something that's going to be able to track it. It's really dark, and you're going to need exposure. So you need something that's going to move with it. And that's really there was a lot of math there. So and I don't know what that was, but I think trying to find it, and you'd probably need a pretty powerful telescope as well to get it. I don't think it was particularly close.
I have a friend, though, who lives up at Pinetop Lakeside, moved up there, and we've been friends for a long, long time, and he sent me this. So he managed to get an absolutely stunning photo of the comet. I will zoom in here if I can do that.
I stand corrected.
So, yeah,
I looked up and it was all clouds, and I was like, well, oh well.
Yeah, well, he was in the right place at the right time. Daniel Hyorgu he lives up in Lakeside Pinetop. He's a touring professional doing shows and things like that on the tech crew and directing and TDing stuff. And he just happened to be in the right place at exactly the right time and got a stunning shot of the thing. So, Courtney.
Yeah, I was just going to say it was really only visible right after sunset, like that picture that Bill showed there near Venus. And it was visible to the naked eye or with binoculars. So you could have done it with any 300 millimeter lens or longer lens to get a nice close-up or like he showed there, a nice landscape with the comet in the background and maybe a little bit of a time exposure. I'm not sure how dark it was at that moment, but after sunset, it's still a little bit of light in the sky. So you need to be able to pump up the contrast and maybe bring it into Photoshop and increase the contrast so it stands out a little more from the sun. If
there are anybody, photographers are interested.
And besides, you've got 70,000 years to put together a package to do the next.
That's right.
Exactly. We'll have cameras in space. I mean, with 70,000 years to work on it, we're going to have like IMAX level digital zero latency coverage. Using quantum transmission. It's all going to be done.
Next question.
This one's from the QR code. Marielle Jusha Miera and Wablo is asking, when preparing for Degree Absolute, how would you position the cameras and the lights, China balls, to greatest effect?
And Alex, you want to dive into that?
I don't know exactly. I don't know what the context is. I know it's not for graduation, but I don't understand. It depends on what you're doing. Like it depends on how you're doing it. In general, a lot of times I've used China balls for the entire lighting of the audience because it gives them a nice soft light, but we might have more lights for the stage. As far as people describing it like we did before, you can put them over top of someone. As far as camera position, the big thing is that what I like to do when I'm trying to figure out camera positions is I want a close-up that's going to get the far corner of the far eye. So whatever that looks like, I just want to see if I can see the far corner of the far eye. I feel like I'm straight on enough that I'm getting something interesting. So I keep on trying to figure out how to move those cameras wider until I can get that angle, because I just find that to be the most compelling angle. I don't like profiles. For general live shows. So those are the things that I think about when I'm thinking about camera position.
Courtney?
And one of the problems with China balls, they make a nice soft light, but they're 360 degrees. So it's hard to control where that light goes. So, if you put it out in front of your subject, it's going to shine back into the camera too and cause lens flare. And so you have to make sure you protect your lens on your cameras from that light so it doesn't reduce your contrast by shining into the lens. Or sometimes it'll light up more of the background than you want because you can't put it at an angle where it doesn't fall into the background if it's close enough, but it does fall into the people. So a trick that a lot of cinematographers use is they use a big black square of duvetine, and they hang it up from the top of the China ball so it drapes over one side so that they can kind of make it unidirectional and keep the light off of the camera or off of the wall if they're putting it above their heads and so on.
Yeah, I've seen China balls that are interesting because they have 100% circular, and then one half of the China ball, the back part, is entirely black. So I'm trying to remember who did it. In fact, I was doing a quick search, and I can't see any online right now. But I do know they exist in some of the lighting manufacturers. So look at something that has a standard mount for a China ball, probably a Bowens mount that is a half-covered China ball. You should be able to find one out there somewhere. I've seen a lot of them. Next question.
This one's for me. Does anyone have a pair of good quality earplugs that don't totally destroy the sound? There are a lot of companies that make these products with tunable attenuation, but it's final sale, so I'm researching. Some are upwards of $200.
And Jason is going to help us out. Jason?
Yeah, they can be very expensive. I just on Friday ordered a pair of custom ER series musician earplugs, and they were $200. But for many, many, many years, I used these, one size fits all from Sensophonics, and they're $12. They do not destroy the sound. My issue has been that they've always been really uncomfortable, so I end up fiddling with them, and I got tired of that. So I went to an audiologist, got my ear molds done, and then sent them off on Friday.
Ooh, well, congratulations. Report back how they work. Let's go to the next question.
TJ Asher in Minneapolis, Minnesota is asking, hey panel, please recommend a good, fast CF Express card reader for CF Express Type B cards. Speed and reliability are most important.
Jason's coming back to help. Jason?
Yeah, you got to go with OWC. They came out with these last year, and they are insanely fast. They actually make full use of USB 4, so it is technically 40 gigabits per second, and they're not very expensive. I want to say, $100, and they're absolutely perfect.
There you go. Maybe we've solved an entire one. Let's go to the next question.
Gordon Lake in Los Angeles, California is asking, what is AO Media's AV1 codec?
Alex.
So AV1 is it's a format that is theoretically it is more efficient than H.265. So it's the next generation. And I think that there's a little bit of a pushback on the MPEG. So MPEG has been doing H.264, H.265, and the licensing is really just unscalable. Like whatever they thought that it was going to work, it doesn't. And it's been delaying the rollout of H.264 years ago, and the rollout of H.265 is largely not a technological problem. It is a problem that people don't want to pay for it, and they don't want to pay for it at scale, specifically YouTube and Facebook. But many others, Netflix and many others, don't want to pay for the H.265, and they definitely don't want to pay for H.266. And so the Alliance for Open Media is a series of them that includes Google and Apple and many others that are like, okay, we're going to develop the next generation of this, but we're going to develop it without the encumberment of all the patents and everything else that MPEG has. So I think that it's a very efficient format. It's able to deliver VOD, but it's also able to deliver WebRTC style as well. It is more computationally expensive, so it requires more CPU power. But folks are starting to build AV1 chips into things. And so those are what's there. It's interesting. Apple was really going towards it, and then for some reason hasn't as much. And now Apple's part of the MPEG consortium as well. So because MPEG is a big pooling of lots of patents from lots of different companies to build these formats. And so AV1 though is we want to build the next generation past H.265, and we don't want to be encumbered by the crazy licensing deals that MPEG keeps on coming up with.
Courtney?
Yeah, what Alex said. You can find, a lot of the newer chipsets in PCs, the newer Intel chipsets, and some of I think the Apple chipsets and the new ARM chipsets have AV1 decoding built into them. Encoding is a little harder, and it takes a little longer. Some of the higher end chipsets will have AV1 encoding and hardware built into them, so it'll be pretty fast and furious. And it is, like Alex said, all royalty free.
Next question.
From the QR code, Chester Sweeney, Las Vegas, Nevada. Best all-weather, long battery, small handheld flashlight, and how do mag lights compare?
Alex, what are your thoughts?
There are so many now. So for $20 or $30, you can get ones that basically turn the night into day. On Amazon, they charge with USB-C now, so you don't even need to replace the batteries. They can be a lot smaller. I grew up with mag lights, little mag lights, big mag lights. I think that the mag lights are not really competitive these days, except the fact that they are both a flashlight and a self-defense device. 'Cause
And
they're big
Courtney.
heavy.
Yeah, I got they had these on sale at Costco the other day, and it's a great little flashlight. It's really tough. It's made of aluminum. It's called an Infinity XL, and it has the cob light there, which is of course pretty bright. It has two brightness levels. It has a flashlight that's a directional light, and it has an emergency red flasher, and it has a giant magnet on the end, so you can stick it on your bumper and put it in flash mode, so that it, if you get car trouble, it's great. It also has a window breaker if you find your windows closed and your power dead, and it has a seat belt cutter right here, so it's and look, it makes a great Halloween flashing light.
And Alex is holding up a different one.
I don't have the window breaker or the seatbelt cutter, so I feel like this one may not be as good as the one that Courtney had. I got this on Amazon, Nebo or whatever, but it's pretty much the same thing. And it's great. I keep it snapped onto my workbench, so I just stick it in there. And it just kind of sticks out, so I can grab it if I need a little extra light.
And I can't find the right model, but I've had for a long time for my on-stage work, or when I used to do a lot of backstage work. So for the past 20 years, I've carried a little light from Coast Products. They're a California company. And what I like about it is that it's an aluminum barrel thing. In fact, here's a different model of theirs, but you can see kind of the form factor. It's small enough to fit on your belt in a little holder. And what I like about the Coast one that I have is on one side you push it, it's a white light, and on the other it's red. So you can use it backstage without lighting up the whole area. And that's been part of my on-set. It fits in a little sheath on my belt, and I think I've had one in almost every show I've been backstage on for the last 20 years. Maybe not that long, because I don't think I bought it that long ago. But anyway, Coast Products, check them out. They have all sorts of lights, including that dual LED white and red. Next question.
From the QR code, Marielle Jusha Miera and Wablo is asking, what were the best things in audio seen at the AES Yearly Expo and Convention in New York City? They had lots of great announcements and new innovations for the audio peeps this year, plus great talks on acoustic and studio setups.
Nice. Alex.
Wasn't there. I mean, I think that the most impactful one that we noticed the most was the Behringer Wing releases, because those are huge upgrades to a market that is pretty big. Those are the ones. That's the one we probably paid the most attention to. I don't know if anyone else saw any specific announcements that were related to that, but probably the one we noticed the most last week.
Alexander.
Yeah, I was watching Warren Hewitt's coverage on AES on his Produce Like a Pro channel, and I was really fascinated with learning about this new German studio monitor company called KSD. And what I thought was interesting about them is that they engineer and design everything in-house, and based on what they were describing, how they build these things, they look like they're very highly spec'd. Now, they have more affordable lines that start at about $5,000 for the pair, and some higher-end stuff that go well above that. But they're just now getting brought into the U.S., so it looks like a really interesting speaker company.
Let's go to the next question.
This one's from me. I've been using Memo Live to do production on a podcast, and it's been rock solid streaming at 1080p on an M2 Mac Mini. Has anyone attempted 4K streaming with only 8 gigs of RAM?
Alex.
I don't think it's that RAM intensive. I mean, what I would do is if you don't have iStat menu, I would get it, and then have iStat menu on there and see what the usage is while it's running. I don't think that 4K, the graphics is probably more of what's going to affect your RAM than the 4K itself. So I don't know if it would make that much of a difference. I would definitely give it a shot. So I would go ahead and try it and just see where your CPU usage is. If your CPU usage is below, I mean, I would say 60% on the high end, probably 55% to be safe. But if you're at 55% or lower and your RAM is not getting hammered, and then do something where you throw some stuff with moving video, see what it does, and let it run for an hour or two to see what happens over time. I think that's going to tell you a lot about whether it's viable or not.
Next question.
From the QR code, John Idelson in Monterey, California. What was your experience at Mad in the Kitchen? Any cooking disasters?
Alex, how are things going, or what's happening?
Oh, I haven't. I think this is a reference to a show that we did years ago during COVID, where in the second year of COVID, we started doing these cooking classes and these were Mad in the Kitchen, and they were a lot of fun. I think that one of the things that I don't remember a lot of particularly bad cooking disasters in what we did. I think most of them worked pretty well because we pre-planned them a lot. I think that the thing for me was that they were very structured, and I think they were structured like a TV show. And I found that the cooking ones that we did with Damayanti Gajar, which were much more casual and much more, kind of we're just working through things and talking about those things and everything else. I found them, at least the person that was part of them, found them to be more pleasurable because they were just more of a discussion. I didn't find that the heavy formatting of something, I think we learned a lot and we did a lot there. I think that the heavy formatting of Man in the Kitchen was something that was great for us to do at the time. But I wasn't sure that it was I didn't know. There's no reason to, I don't know, there's part of me that was like, there's no reason to do that when we're going live, where we could use interaction as a way to fill that time. Like, it didn't have to be as efficient as it was there. So I think that it was fun to work on, and I learned a lot, and it was a really fun show to work on. But I think that as I think about cooking shows, which I do talk to a lot of people about, we haven't really turned it into another set of shows. Because I think that cooking in general is an untapped market, in the sense that everybody eats, and generally eating out has gotten more expensive, and buying things in boxes is being proven to be probably as bad for you as smoking. So I think that there's this building pressure for people to make things a little bit more from scratch. And so I think that's a big opportunity to do something. We just haven't quite gotten around to figuring it all the little bits and pieces out. But I think we're going to make another pass at it pretty soon.
Next question.
From Walt Palmer in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Over the past several weeks, I have been watching TV coverage of the East Coast hurricanes and noticed a variety of microphone windscreens, including foam, condoms, and fuzzy animals. Recommendations for heavy wind protection.
Oh, this we could talk about for a while. Alex, what do you think?
I mean, typically, I don't know what they're called other than dead cats, but dead cats are pretty popular. They're a big fuzzy covering over top of your blimp or over top of something else that's going to pick up a lot of the, and I'm sure Courtney can talk more about this, but that's the one that I would say is probably one of the most effective. Condoms are typically used when you are in heavy water and potentially underwater. I know folks who cover surfing use them pretty heavily to protect the microphones. I don't know how it affects the sound, but it definitely protects the microphone to some degree. So those are their fuzzy animals. I guess it depends on how thick the fuzz is as how effective it might be. It might be close to a dead cat. So I think that might be one of those things that I will say I watched a bunch of it, and I'm not sure I agree with the artifice. I don't know if you really need a person on. I've been really thinking about how often we as broadcasters and as event companies do things because we've always done them, and not really thought about what is the actual use in doing this. And I'm not clear there's an actual use of putting a host in harm's way, in the middle of a hurricane. Like, does that really add anything? Like, I watched the BBC yesterday, and they were hosting the BBC NewsHour from somewhere in Israel or Lebanon or whatever. But the point was they're not in their studio. It's like, does it really make any difference to be there as the host as opposed to throw it at someone who can tell you what's going on there? I wasn't sold on that.
Courtney?
Yeah, the best protection is a basket-type windscreen, one that gets a dead air space between the windshield and the microphone itself. This is especially good for shotgun microphones that have, side address or interference tubes on them. The dead cat, or as I like to call them, wind weasel, is made of a polyester
is that an official
shag.
term, or did you just make that up?
It's now an official
I've been
term.
using that name for years. Wind weasel. Bring it. Weasel.
It's better. I will admit it's better than a dead cat, a wind weasel.
Yeah, we're not upsetting the cat owners out there.
All you need is a little wind weasel there. It'll take care of it.
The technical name that Rycode gave them is Windjammer.
Yeah,
But the problem with those is that they're a polyester shag. But if you're using them in rain, they keep the wind off. They're up to a 45-mile-an-hour wind, I think they're rated. And they're really good at preventing that low-frequency wind noise from bottoming out your microphone. But the problem is they absorb water. They may prevent the water from going through. Water will soak through them and drip on your microphone inside after some point in time. Another thing I've seen people use that we use to keep the if you've got heavy raindrops hitting the microphone, that can make a thump, 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 thump sound, even if you have it protected with, some type of water barrier inside there. So one thing that we use on the set to prevent the noise of raindrops either hitting the microphone, I've seen people build little basket things that go around the Rycode basket out of this hog's hair rain mat. And it's a rubber-coated hog's hair or jute fiber with large weave jute fiber. And what that does is as the rain hits it, it's about an inch thick. And the raindrop will hit the top of it, and it'll break up that raindrop into little raindrops before it hits the microphone windscreen. And so you won't hear the weight of those water droplets hitting the microphone as much. We also use it for absorbing the sound of rain hitting the ground. If you get a lot of noise, you can just lay down a layer of this hog's hair mat, and it'll absorb the rain and reduce the noise considerably, so it's not hitting puddles and splashing.
I want to do a commercial for a jute-protected mini wind weasel. I think it'd be fun. Let's go to the next. Oh, I'm sorry, Nigel wanted to get in on this.
Hog's hair wind weasel.
Hog's hair wind weasel.
Yeah, I just had a side comment. I was overseas, and I found lots of the live coverage of presenters very hard to follow. The thing that I found most interesting was a chap called Ryan. I've lost his name now. Ryan, I'll find the website for you and post it, who actually sort of did an almost office hours type view of this thing. And it followed the hurricanes. His name is Ryan Hall. And if you look him up on YouTube and look at his channel, I just couldn't bring it up. He really has an interactive view. He has people on the field. And actually, I thought that was much better than trying to follow people being blown off saying fairly standard things. So I don't know if Ryan Hall, we could get him on the show, but it's pretty amazing what they put together.
Interesting. All right. Next question.
From the QR code, Chester Sweeney in Las Vegas, Nevada. Who makes the longest lasting AA batteries, Energizer, Duracell, or others?
Nigel.
So in personal opinion, it typically generically is Duracell, but my piece of advice is go back to the manufacturer of the device you're looking at and find out what batteries they used if they tell you to test. So particularly in the home automation business, they're very clear that they use Duracell Ds or something. And if you want to get the sort of performance they have, see what they used, because the battery chemistry does make some difference to how that works.
Courtney Gooden.
Sorry, I was desperately trying to find something on Costco. I agree with Nigel. I think the Duracells, their latest, they have a name from Extra Power or something that they're the copper top batteries, and they supposedly have a shelf life of 12 years. That's another good thing to look for, because if you're not going to be using them constantly, they will maintain a charge without self-discharge for a long period of years, so that in the 2 years since you put batteries in your emergency flashlight, it'll come on when you switch it on. I did see some rechargeable batteries. I was trying to find them at Costco last time I was there, and this was really interesting. They're pin lights. They're AA's and single A pin lights with a USB-C plug on them to recharge them. Each battery has a USB-C plug on a AA pin light. So, but then I looked at the current carrying capabilities of them, and they're not as high a current as the regular Inteloops. So you give up some to put that circuitry in there, and that charging circuitry and the USB-C plug inside the battery. So. And it comes with a little adapter that breaks out a single USB-C to like 4 USB-Cs, so you can charge 4 of them at the same time with this little octopus charger.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, some of the new small rig batteries now all have USB-C on them. This is like the Sony 970 form factor. And as soon as I saw that, I am so frustrated constantly of carrying around this big lug thing for the 970s specifically that I was immediately like, this is the only battery I'm going to buy. Because now I can just plug it into a USB-C. I think the AA batteries is taking it a little too far. By the way, I did consult Midjourney, and we now have a Wind Weasel. So I'm just saying.
There we go. There we go. Somebody get the marketing team ramped up. Alexander.
Yeah, sorry, I'm almost choking on my coffee here. The IKEA high-capacity batteries have actually been pretty good for me. I'm not sure if IKEA I'm assuming they're not manufacturing their own, and they're probably fairly secretive of who's actually making it. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Panasonic, but the IKEA higher capacity AA's have been really good for me. I've used them in wireless packs, and they are very good. I haven't directly compared them to the Analib stuff, but obviously that's top-notch stuff as well.
Courtney, you want to come back in?
Yeah, I did find the batteries. They're called Coast AA and AAA USB-C rechargeable lithium batteries, and they come in an 8-count for about $34, $35. So there you go. You can get them at Costco.
What if those are the same people that make my flashlight? That's odd. One other thing I've noticed is I bought this because I had to go to Comic-Con, and I have 2 or 3 other Anker chargers, but this one is more interesting because it just literally flops down and plugs into an AC outlet. So at any time, so we're finding more things that are able to be a battery pack that is directly rechargeable from AC, and I love that kind of form factor. So you're saying USB-C connectors and things like that to recharge them. I think the industry seems to be shifting towards self-charging constructs because everybody is sick and tired of having to bring all the batteries out, take them out of something, put it in a cooker for 6 hours to use them again. And you end up having to buy twice as many batteries because you have a set on the charger and a set in use. But still in all. Next question.
Paul Wall, who's in Austin, Texas, is asking, how do you develop your own AI to interact with others in the world and even ask questions on office hours?
Developing your own AI is no small task. I know there are services that allow you to kind of white label brand attachments into AI so that it looks like it, but I'm not sure whether developing your own large language model and trying to attach something to it is the kind of thing that individuals who aren't professionals at that might want to take a look at. Alex, what do you think?
I think there's going to be a booming business on different platforms that guarantee that the person you're talking to is a human. Like I mark my words, like the backlash of this is going to go the other direction. It's not going to be there are going to be a lot of people that go, how do I have AI interact with other people? And then there's going to be this growing number of people that say, how do I have something that is a biometric test every time you jump into it, requires, identification, requires all kinds of other things to say, yeah, the person you're talking to is a human being. I think that's going to be the next big thing.
Courtney?
I think OpenAI does provide an API so that you can write code to work with their to interact with their large language models. So
yeah, but that's their large language model. And I think if I'm right in interpreting Paul's question, he thought you would develop your own large language model to develop with that. Maybe I misread that. Who knows?
Well, Notebook LM, as Paul has been using, as he knows, he brought it up that as a question, does allow you to put your own stuff in. But I'm not sure. I don't think Notebook LM Google makes available an API to interface to Notebook LM. So you can train your own. The expensive part is training the data, adding the database and then training it before you download that into whatever you're going to be interacting with. So a lot of that is done online now with the customizable databases that are available now from the different AI suppliers that create your own custom AI. But that all is done. The training is all done in the cloud, and then it comes back down as tokens.
Alex,
still working on the logo, Wind Weasel.
Oh, okay. There we go. The wind weasel, but there's no wind.
I'm working on it. Hey,
it's a windless weasel.
This is an evolution here. This is evolution. We're talking about Mid-Journey.
Yeah.
It's like that. So I'm working on it. I'm just saying, we're working on the logo there.
Let's go on to the next question.
This one's from me. Will AV1 encoding on an Apple M4 processor make a dent in the industry for adoption?
Jason Bates, what do you think?
It certainly can't hurt. Keep in mind, Apple has had this since, I believe, at least the M3. My laptop has both AV1 encoding and decoding, and it's etched into silicon. So yes, it certainly can't hurt.
Yeah, they've been pretty good about trying to incorporate. I mean, they're members. Apple is members of most of the consortiums that work on these standards. Now, we have run into problems when a particular proprietary technology from something like a camera comes out. Sometimes it takes Apple some months to approve that company's technology and kind of allow them to work inside of the Apple software without any problem. But eventually, I mean, we've had a couple of circumstances, like Canon famously develops their own codecs. And for a while, when a new camera comes out that has a variant of that codec, it'll take a little bit of time before they finally approve that parser to go into something like Final Cut that I use. So we've seen 2 or 3 months, maybe sometimes even 4 or 5 months of development time between the announcement of the codec and being able to use it seamlessly, drag and drop inside the software. And I think Apple gets around that by being an active part of those consortiums that do things like AV1, so that when the codec comes out, they're kind of up to date with it.
And to be clear, AV1 is, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old. You know, like it's been around a while. It's been around a while. So, I mean, an AV1 accelerator makes a huge difference if it's installed in lots and lots of things, because it does need that dedicated processing to effectively be used. It's the same thing that as you start putting H.264 and H.265 chips into something, whether it's Android or Apple products or other things, it makes that more available. You can't develop the content for it if you don't have the chips that are going to support playing it back.
Let's go to the next question.
The QR code question is from Chester Sweeney in Las Vegas, Nevada. Basic emergency kit every vehicle should have. Best bang for the buck. Alex Lindsay.
You know, I just went down this path, Chester. I think it's surprising that you asked this. So I have this. This is the one that I have that I literally just got last week that I'm putting in my car. This is a EMT pouch. It's got just a random, it's got like a little. The reason that I did this is that I was on a set. And I grabbed the rock and roller the wrong way and just got blood on everything. And I was just like, and I just was like, I need to have a kit in my car that is, I was pulling stuff out of it. I need to have a kit in the car that I can just close this up real quick. And so I bought this little bag. It's $30. This is where you can buy it on Amazon. I did start with some Band-Aids, like I'm going to put some Band-Aids in. Then I went to getting this bag. Then I started researching. I almost got like a full-on road emergency kit from an EMT. I think that the next step from there was an ambulance that I would just drive around. And I decided to pull back to the little pouch that has a bunch of Band-Aids in it and some other stuff. It's got Neosporin, and I added. Well, actually, it doesn't have Neosporin because I don't know why. So I added Neosporin. I added a stenciled stick to it, which makes bleeding go away really quickly. So I added those things back to it as an addition to it. But outside of that, it's pretty much just this bag, and I'm putting it in my car. And it also has webbing. It'll attach to to my backpack because I have webbing on my backpack.
Nice. Hopefully you never have to use it. So coming up this week, it is Monday after all. And today, just in a few minutes, Kristen, why am I not looking at my thing? Kristen Patterson of Live Bash is going to be our special guest in the second hour today. On Tuesday, we're talking to the vMix folks, particularly Jonas Dottel, who is part of our community here. Will walk us through vMix, automation, control, and development. On Wednesday, we're going to continue the theme on Audio Day, talking about vMix audio. Thursday, scheduled at this point, we're looking at the latest from VizVector, the software implementation we're using for our weekend shows. Friday, right now, we have Oren McAllister scheduled, talking about client engagement. He's a specialist there, particularly for visual assistive technology platforms. So it's an exciting week coming up. And don't forget, Extra Hours happens every week. It's part of our time shift to allow our viewers in places like Asia and Australia to listen during regular daylight time. Grant Whitehead leads that discussion, and it's coming up at about 11 hours. Happens every Monday. I believe it's 6 p.m. Pacific time here, but it'll be another time in your time zone, so pay attention to it. Don't forget, on the weekends we have our regular Q&A stuff happening, and Sunday, as always, is more philosophical. It's a show we don't broadcast on YouTube. We also, if you'd like to support our efforts here, don't forget office hours /donate if you'd like to help us do our job. We'll be right back.